All right, we are live, episode 78. I thought I would be further along here, but it got busy the last year and a half of playing, and I know a lot of the other Gretsch artists out there have been busy working as well. So here we are, episode 78. I want to first of all start off and congratulate the Gretsch Company on 140 years of being in business. What an absolute milestone, and it gives credit to Mr. and Mrs. Gretsch, Fred and Dinah, for continuing the business, continuing the legacy, and continuing to make the most incredible musical instruments on this earth. So congratulations, Gretsch, on their 140th anniversary. And today, everyone, I am very, very excited to welcome Mr. Dave Phillips, all the way from the UK. We'll find out exactly where, in an undisclosed location right now. He wears many, many hats, although he's not wearing one currently. He does an awful lot of we will get into what he actually does here. I'm going to read some of my notes here, but he is the artist relations and public relations for both Gretsch Drums and DW Drums. He is also a very accomplished and published photographer and has 2 books out entitled A Drummer's Perspective and From the Riser. I believe there's 200 different photos in one of the books, and Dave was kind enough to carve out a little bit of time today, and I wanted to thank him again for connecting me with Mr. Ash Sohn a couple of years ago, who was a guest on this live stream series. So everyone, please welcome Dave Phillips. Thanks for being here, Dave.
Very kind. Thank you very much for the introduction, Neil. It's a genuine pleasure to be here. And yes, I haven't got a hat on. You can see my head shining in the light.
That's all good. That's great. Now, and it's so. What do you actually do? Let's clarify this. I said that artist relations and public relations, but what is your job titles?
Yeah, well, it's split, as you said, on the artist relations side. So I look after, for UK and Europe, artist relations for Gretsch, Latin Percussion, PDP, DW Drums, DWE, which we've just launched this week. And you could throw Slingland in there as well, but that's kind of dormant at the moment. But
wow. So
there is just me here in UK, and I look after all the artists coming over. And on the other side of things, I also handle sort of publicity, press, media for all those brands as well. And I know we'll probably get into some of those details. So that, in essence, is all the things that I work on, and my job titles.
Yes, that's a bit. How do you have enough hours in the day? Do you get up early and do you work late? How do you fit everything in?
Yes, and yes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, I do it because I love what I do, and I'm super passionate about it. And I've played drums my entire life, and to be working, in the drum industry with the greatest brands, is a huge honor. So if you love what you do, you don't mind doing it. And because I'm based in the UK, and most of my colleagues are over in Los Angeles, with the time difference, I pretty much work till 9 or 10 o'clock at night every day. So,
wow.
But I'm not complaining. I just enjoy what I do. And of course, there's a lot of weekend stuff because I go out to a lot of concerts too as well.
Yeah, I have seen some of the photos and some of the Facebook posts, and it's like, wow, I can't. And the magnitude of these shows that you're seeing. I mean, like big stadium shows to some larger theater shows. Who have you seen recently? Where have you been out to?
Well, I've got to say, I mean, I never tire of going out to these concerts. Yeah. It's because of those brands. If you put them together, we work with so many fantastic artists. This year, well, I generally go to about sort of 50 odd concerts a year, something like that. And then some of those are festivals, which is several days. And I'm sorry, I'm going to look at well, I've been out this year. So Royal Bloods, they were supporting Muse. That was a good concert. I always go to Reading and Download festivals. And there's hardly a week goes by where I'm not meeting up with an artist. This week I met up with somebody I've worked with for a very long time, a guy called Carlos Hercules. You would know him from playing with sort of George Michael and
Right.
Annie Lennox and lots of other sort of top bands. And I've got a lot of concerts coming up in the next few weeks as well. The thing is, we have obviously all the American bands coming over on tour, and then I've got all the the UK artists as well. So it's, without a word of a lie, I could probably go to a concert every single day of the week, but I have to draw the line somewhere because I do need a life, and the wife would not be very happy with me if I did that.
I can imagine. Does she go to the show sometimes with you?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, she comes along. She doesn't like going backstage, but
Really?
yes, she usually just sits and waits for me to go and meet the artist, and then she enjoys the concert afterwards.
That's like the best part for me, I think, is the connection afterwards, Well,
Yeah.
it's the pièce de résistance for sure. That's so do these artists, the drummers, do they ring you up? Do they email you and let you know? And how does that connection work?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually probably the difficult bit, because I get invited to concerts all the time. So in the summer, I get massive diary clashes. I remember one day, and I'll tell you the story, because on the same day I had a choice of going to see Stevie Wonder with Stanley Randolph, Zach Starkey with The Who, or Christoph Schneider with Rammstein. Now you probably think, you go to Stevie Wonder or The Who. Actually, I hadn't seen Christoph because he was quite a new sighting. So I actually went to see Rammstein that day, but I also would love to have gone to see Stevie Wonder and The Who. So, difficult choices. And in the summer season, that happens all the time. And I kind of have to put my sort of brand hat on and work out, it may be somebody I hadn't seen for a while, or somebody doesn't come through the UK very often. It could be, we want to get some new photos. I'm also going to work out, distances, because actually where I live, nobody plays, unfortunately. So I constantly have to either travel down to London or Birmingham or, sort of northern parts of the UK. So that's a factor too. But it's a lovely thing to have people reach out and genuinely want to see you and meet up. And I think it's important with artist relations to be, it's about personal contacts. It says it in the title, artist relations. Right. And I think myself and all our colleagues, we really take pride in getting to know the artists and becoming friends. It's not business. This is friendships.
That's amazing to hear. Do you get very many invites from drummers who want to be signed and say, "Can you please come and see our group because I'm interested in being released"?
But that's a tough one, because we've got so many artists that we have signed. Really, they've got to take the first priority. And like I said, there's only so many that can actually go to. But occasionally, I'll go along to, to see somebody who haven't signed. And one of the reasons why I go to the big festivals is, I can meet, 20, 30 drummers in a weekend, which is just a brilliant use of time. I can network and I can meet people face to face. And literally every time that happens, something comes out of it. 2 or 3 days afterwards, I get an email saying, "Hey, met you at Reading. We'd love to find out more about playing Gretsch or whatever." So,
wow,
yeah, it's a valuable use of time, and people always appreciate it when you come out.
Oh, I can imagine. It's a dream come true to be a Gretsch artist. It's something I had wanted to be for a long time. And when that happened, I still wake up someday and go, "Wow, this is crazy." It's so grateful.
I know what you mean. Because when DW bought all those brands off Fender, and I started working on Gretsch. I know Andrew feels the same way. Andrew Shreve, that is. We feel it's a great honour to look after the Gretsch brand, and we take very seriously its history and credibility. So I know what you mean when you say that.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and especially I'm north of Toronto by 90 minutes or so. There's not a whole there's a fair amount of drummers up here, but there's only a handful of Gretsch artists, I think, in Canada that are signed directly with through the USA. And actually meeting Fred and Dinah this past May, and just in New York City, that was just such a trip. So can't wait to meet you in person sometime if we ever get over to the UK.
Yeah, I'd love to see you have revisited. That'd be great.
Oh, wow. Right. Well, that's, if things are starting to happen, so we would absolutely love to go over there. But I wanted to talk to you about your own musical journey. You said you started playing drums very young. Can you tell us about how things began for you musically?
Sure. The funny thing is, my mum said she got a book, How to Choose an Instrument for Your Child. And all it said for drummers is, you'll know if you've got a drummer. So I literally, out of nowhere, and I can't explain it, at 4 years old, I started playing the drums.
Wow.
And my brother used to play in an orchestra, and I was there watching the guy on the kettle drums, trying to sort of mimic him. And I built my own drum kit about 4 or 5 years old out of pots and pans and waste paper baskets and everything. And I got my first drum kit at 6, and never had a drum lesson in my life. And I just taught myself listening to Genesis and Led Zeppelin records.
Wow.
In a way, with hindsight, it's a real shame I didn't have drum lessons, because I wasted years trying to figure out stuff that somebody could have showed me very, very quickly. And a little known fact, actually, my other instrument, saxophone.
Wow.
And I never made the mistake on that. I went straight to get lessons. I got a really good teacher. And yeah, I mean, you can learn so much quicker if you get a good teacher. And but having said that, the other side of it is, I've got a really good ear. You can just play me a few, bars of a track and I'll pick it up, because that's how I taught, how I taught myself. So just listening to music, that gave me a very good ear.
Mm-hmm. That's not easy stuff. If you could pick up Zeppelin and Genesis stuff, then for sure there was something special about. That was kind of the music that we're probably a similar age or so. I mean, that's what we did. We listened to records, and I mean records or cassettes, and we look over and over. Oh, I think it's this, and that's how we figured it out. It's
very much so. And a few years later, when videos came out, I got a Dennis Chambers and Tony Royster. That video just blew my mind. Another particular one was Tommy Aldridge.
Wow, yeah.
And I kind of learned double bass drumming listening, watching Tommy Aldridge on that video.
Great.
So I did that for years, and I joined my first band at 15, and never looked back. I've always played in bands, and I still play in bands now. I make time to do that.
Yeah, you would need to. You need to. Yeah, you're definitely an organized person, as we were chatting about before. We were live here, but that's great. So you were playing. Were you playing in? No, so where are you right now? You're in the UK, but whereabouts?
If you look at the sort of map of the UK, I'm right in the centre, the furthest point from the sea. So I'm sort of halfway between London and Birmingham. My nearest large town is Northampton, but in fact, I live in the middle of the country. I live in a village, so I can sort of make noise if I want to.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Playing at home. So what's nice about it, and I actually kind of avoid London shows, if I'm honest, it's just like if you play, Los Angeles or New York or probably, Montreal or, one of the big cities, the guest lists are always crazy and people are busy or the record company are there. So actually being based away from London, most of the time I can meet up with artists and they've got more time, the pressure's off, they're maybe not doing, press or something like that. So that sort of works to my advantage. On the other flip side, there's some bands that only really come through London, and then I have to sort of travel down.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, have you always lived in the area that you are now?
Yes. Yeah. Well, when I went to college, I lived away for about 8 years, but I sort of, pre my. So I've worked in the music industry 24 years now, just coming up to sort of quarter of a century. Prior to that, I had a sort of quite a sort of career in marketing, and then sort of one of those sort of groundbreaking moments. My mum saw an advert for Pearl Drums in a local newspaper, looking for a marketing manager, and there was my dream job. 20 miles from my house. And very, very briefly, I applied and I got rejected. And I kind of guessed it was because I was earning too much money. So I wrote back and I said, I really want this job and I'll take a pay cut. And a couple of days later, I get a call from Pearl Drums saying, yeah, actually, we were interested. Walked in. And long story short, I had an interview that day. I took a very large pay cut and I got the job. And so it's not just about, trying to get as much money as you can. It's about following your heart. And, in my first week, I was working with Ian Pace, Tico Torres and Chad Smith. Wow. So, money can't buy stuff when you're, a wannabe aspiring drummer, So I never made it, professionally, but to work on the other side of the industry, the business side of the industry, was, a very special thing to do.
That's fascinating. I love that side. I taught at a drum shop for 20 years and lots of drummers came through, lots of clinicians came through. And it was amazing being able to hang out with Clyde and Jabbo, seeing and meeting Jerry Brown and Ndugu Chancellor and Omar Hakim and Terry Bozio, spending, time. We're a small group of us and, Clyde and Jabbo telling stories. I mean, you can't replace that. Right. You know what I mean?
So, I've been doing it all this time and I still get that, thrill out of it now, So, meeting your heroes and getting to know them, properly, which is a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, when you were a young drummer, were Gretsch Drums around in the UK? Were they something you were aware of or not really?
Not really. I mean, I knew the brand, but... actually, I mean, I think in the end, the reason why Fender sold Gretsch and its other brands is they're a guitar company, and they really didn't know what to do with it. They didn't give it much love. So I didn't really see much Gretsch. I mean, when I was growing up, Premier was the #1 brand.
Sure. Yep.
So I ended up playing Premier.
Oh, wonderful drums. The best chrome, they say. I think I was in the Midlands in 1990 when Yamaha had acquired them, but they were closed because they were just revamping the factory. I was so sad. I wanted to.
I live quite near the old Premier factory. So
I visited the Midlands. I was in Earl Shilton, a little village right there, and I was there for 3 weeks. For goodness sakes, it was wonderful. I loved it. Oh, okay, that's great.
Yes, yeah.
What a beautiful area.
I know. No, it's very green. Proper English countryside. So away from the city. But yeah, I loved my Premier projector kit. So, but I didn't really see much Gretsch, and in fact, when when DW bought Gretsch, the brand in the UK, there was only sort of like a dozen artists in the UK. There was very, very few. So and look at it now. It's completely changed for the better.
It's exploded. Every time I see a new Gretsch artist, it's from the UK, from the UK, from the UK, right? And I'm like, hey, that's great. You know what I mean? That's great. Lots of great music and lots of great musicians.
Yes,
Always,
it's if I'm just very proud of what we've achieved over here, and a really great story on that. Just that certainly made me feel very proud. Reading Festival is one of the biggest festivals in the world. On Sunday this year, 4 of the 7 bands were Gretsch artists.
Wow, that is great.
That there it is. So Reading this year was kind of a bit of a Gretsch fest. Great for me because I had so many bands and artists there in one place.
That's incredible.
But that really kind of made me feel like we've put it on the map properly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love seeing when we see a TV show or see a live show. My wife will go, "Hey, see the Gretsch logo from here." I'm like,
"Oh yeah." My wife is well trained on that.
Yeah, or my wife will go, "No, they're not Gretsch. You're not going to care." But no, she's very funny about that. So now, okay, so what happened so you began with Pearl Drums, and what happened to as your career developed?
Yeah, I was at Pearl for 6 years, and what happened was I started at Pearl UK, and I can't remember. It was probably after about 4 years, maybe 5 years, they opened Pearl Europe, and that was based in the Netherlands. And I was sort of promoted to European marketing manager, and I was also responsible for artist relations as well, by the way. So I was sort of marketing and artist relations at that time, and I was commuting to Holland, and I had 2 young kids, and they never really saw that much of me, and I just thought I don't want to do this, so I went freelance. And yeah, it was a scary move because I went from salary to 0.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about this industry, it's a really small industry. And so I paid my own way out to the NAMM show, and I met lots and lots of people from all the different brands. They all knew me.
Sure.
And I met Scott Donnell and Garrison from DW. And we had a meeting. I mean, there was no agenda. It was just like, I just sort of met up, and we talked about it. And I think my timing was good because, so many DW artists were touring in Europe and UK, and it's with an 8-hour time difference. That's pretty difficult to sort of manage, something going wrong on the road, or
sure.
And the level of artists, number of artists that come through. So. Long story short, 2 months later was the Frankfurt show. They were always like January, sort of March. And I met back up with them then, and they said, we're going to create a job for you.
Wow.
And that's how I got working for DW. And I've now been working for them 18 years. And it's just been a wonderful company, family-run company, which is great. Mm-hmm. My sort of role changed again. So in 2015, so up to sort of 2015, I was sort of freelance. I had some other clients as well, non-drum clients. So I was working with Ampeg. I worked with Avid on Pro Tools, lots of different brands, and then in sort of 2015, the DW acquired so many brands. There was Cat, there was Tocker, there was Gibraltar, LP Gretsch that we mentioned, and they said, right, we want you full time. So from 2015, it was like, okay, and that job, looking after so many different brands over here, just me. There's nobody else. It was right in the deep end. And Scott, bless him, one of the greatest guys I've ever worked for. He was very much, you sort it out. he sort of trusted me to sort of get on with it. And what became very apparent very quickly was, there was nearly nothing in place, from the Fender days. I had to, sort out all the backline from scratch. Like I said, the artist roster, was very small.
Mm-hmm.
And it built, quite quickly. And Ash actually was, one of the first guys to come on board. In fact, it was a very fateful day because I remember it was just after Reading, I think it was 2016, and we had a number of Sakai artists leave all at the same time on the same day.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've never known a day like it. I was on the phone for 12 hours.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. So, and I mean, that in essence, so I went from Pearl to DW in 2015, looking after all of those brands. And I've sort of on and off looked after the sort of, publicity side of things. But I've been doing that, as a full-time role for the DW since, I think, 2018, actually. So it's about 5 years.
As I said off camera before, I don't know how you juggle all of this, Dave. I really don't know. Every time I email you, I can literally go, okay, it's going to be probably 5 minutes before I hear back, or 10 minutes. I think the most it's been is, 20, because
Right.
you were probably living your life.
Yeah, I did. When I get a lot of emails coming through, so I think I tend to answer very quickly, so they don't back up. And there's a great expression: if you want something done, give it to somebody busy, because you just don't mess around. You just get on with it. And also, artists appreciate the fact that they get an answer. I mean, very often, somebody reaches out, something's broken, something, that there's something's gone missing or what have you on the road. I know they need help. They don't want to find out. You don't want to reply tomorrow or that, what have you. It's too late. So it's important to sort of not let things sort of get too backlogged.
You wouldn't want Steve Ferroni to be touring the UK and a bass drum spur be broken, and then or I'm sure people figure things out and make do with what they have. But I know you would remedy that. The burning question for a lot of folks that are watching and will be watching is, how do I get a Gretsch Drums endorsement? What do you look for? And what is the most misunderstood thing about endorsements when new drummers talk to you about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, one of the things I would say is, the bar is very high. We want the Gretsch, we want it to be an exclusive club. I mean, we look at there's no one specific answer to that. It's a combination of things. So, being unique, bringing something to the table that adds something to the roster. I mean, in this day and age, having a social media presence helps.
Sure.
It's not a prerequisite, but if somebody has 1 million followers, that's got to be interesting, hasn't it? So I'd actually, there's not that many drummers who have 1 million followers, but I'm sort of exaggerating. But you know what I mean?
Sure.
Actually, one of the things we look very closely at is the size of venues you and your band are playing.
Right.
It's a very good indicator. And the other one, let me just get a drink.
Mm-hmm.
So festivals, they spend a lot of time working out who's going to headline, who's second, third, different stages. So where you're placed on a festival is a very good indicator of your profile. And if you're fifth on the bill on the third stage, listen, that's great. If I was a drummer, I'd be really proud to do that. Don't get me wrong. But actually, when we're looking at endorsements, the amount of a profile you have, the amount of influence, the awareness that you bring to the brand is really important.
Great.
And it's not just about, you know, playing in stadiums or headlining festivals, because, for example, in the jazz world, you know, playing Ronnie Scott's is a big deal, you know,
Yeah.
but it's only like 350 capacity. So, you know, we apply common sense to it. You know, if you're doing well in your genre, and actually that's another thing, you know, the type of music you're playing. I think one of the things that I'm really, you know, quite excited by, that if you look at all the artists that are brought on in the UK, it's such a range of music. You know, turn the clock back 15, 20 years, a lot of people just associated Gretsch with a lot of jazz, old school, something like that.
Sure.
Right now, it's the most contemporary brand, you know, pop, R&B, you know, jazz, blues, you know, heavy rock, you know, it's right across the board. And I think that adds, you know, it's really good for the brand to be able to represent so many different, you know, genres. I mean, other things, you know, brand loyalty, you know, if you've got an endorsement already, you know, are you tagging your sponsors? You know, we do look at those sort of things. Having, you know, the logo on your bass drum head, being professional, you know, representing the brands, you know, all those sorts of things help us to decide, and also providing the information. You know, I get emails from somebody saying, give me an endorsement, and giving me no information. So, you know, having a professional resume, you know, having videos, good quality pictures, all those things, you know, make you look professional, make you look better.
Any idea on how many applications you would get weekly?
We probably get about 1 to 2 applications a week, something like that. And, you know, I know Andrew gets them in the States as well. I mean, the reality, you know, we probably only sign, I don't know, 5 to 10 artists a year, something like that. It's not very many. So that's what I mean. It's a very considered decision. And the other thing, Andrew and I are like sort of brothers. You know, we talk every day, and we very much, you know, value each other's opinion. So if I have somebody I think looks interesting, you know, I want Andrew's input on it, and vice versa. So it's very much a team effort, and we work together on it.
That's good that you're on the same page, because nothing worse than when you're not.
No, that's right. Sorry, the other question was about, was it mostly misunderstood?
Yes. Like,
yes.
You know, what is the most misunderstood when new drummers say, okay, I'd like an endorsement? What don't they really understand?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things on that. One is just understanding how an endorsement works. So it's not just about getting gear and disappearing into the night. You know, it's very much about building a relationship. It's a two-way thing, you know. Some artists are a lot more proactive than others, but you know, having a logo on the bass drum, tagging us in your social media, talking about this, you know, the brand, being passionate about it, you know, it's all that, you know, those things really help. It's also, you know, probably less now, but it's a myth that, you know, there's a whole pile of free gear that's going to be given away.
Right, I know. Yeah,
it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Now, are there different levels of endorsements as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our silver level endorsement, which actually is the majority of the endorsers, is an artist purchase. But the real reason for it, you know, one of the major benefits of the endorsement is the support. Yeah. So it's not about free gear. It's about knowing that, you know, you're playing South America or Australia or Japan or Canada or, you know, Scotland, that actually, you know, you can get support. There's backline there. I mean, our brands have, you know, global backline support. I mean, not in, you know, we haven't got drums in Antarctica, but with all the major markets, you know, we've invested really serious money and relationships with backline companies to support our artists.
I always ask, it's always on the rider that is first.
Yes.
And unfortunately in Canada here, there's, we have a big chain, Long McQuaid, and they don't have any Gretsch drums. And the promoters sometimes that we will use Long McQuaid's because it's the least expensive and it's easy to get everything from there. So, but hopefully for me that changes, because I would really love to play my Gretsch drums. And nothing wrong with Yamaha drums. They make lovely drums. They're just not my sound at all. And I was so relieved after playing 7 shows out west to go and play my broadcaster kit with that Ridgeland snare drum and the Pisces. It was like, well, I felt so comfortable. Whereas the whole other 7 shows, it was like, you know, and that's great to hear. What a difference, as you said, from years ago when you could barely find Gretsch drums, and now they're everywhere in so many genres, from hip hop to rap. I mean, like you see Van Romain playing with Enrique, playing, you know, different Brooklyn kit or whatever, and Sean Horton out in LA playing, you know, an R&B as well. And then you see Dave Northrup playing country in Nashville. And that's, I just love the versatility of the drums and the visual that we are getting on so many venues and artists. It's really lovely to see that.
Let me tell you an interesting question for you. This is for the UK. So what percentage of artists do you think play broadcaster in the UK?
Probably pretty high. I would say really high, maybe 60%.
Yeah, bang, 62%.
62%.
Yeah.
What a good guess. Yeah, they're amazing.
And you know, when you think, you know, broadcaster was around in the 40s and 50s, went away for a long time.
Yeah.
And Gretsch, Paul Cooper, and the factory guys did an amazing job. You know, with a new broadcaster that came out, you know, 2014, I think it was. You know, and the different styles of music that it's being played on is just amazing. It is so versatile.
They sound different than the USA's, and we played a good sized theater last week, and the front of house came up to me after sound check and after the gig and said, "Your drums sounded unbelievable." He says, "I hardly had to do anything to them at all." He was putting the mics on. I hit a little 20 by 16 bass drum, and he goes, "Oh baby, I can't wait to." I love the broadcasters. They're really dialed in now, I feel. And,
I got mine last year.
Did you?
Yeah, I got same as Ash Sohn, of course. It was a broadcaster in Satin Black Flame, 22, 12, 16, and I've done some gigs with it, and yeah, just the sound was just incredible.
And I went direct to shell at Andrew's recommendation, and I wasn't really sure after a few gigs, and I'm like, no. And they've recording here with them and asking front of house people, different theaters and whatnot. There's plenty of sustain, and I don't put any muffling on those toms at all. Zero. 2 single ply heads, top and bottom. So but that satin flame color is just beautiful.
I know. There's I saw another artist, and he had a peacock satin flame.
Oh wow!
Which I hadn't seen, and under lights, it had kind of like the most amazing sort of glow. It just looked incredible. But there's a few others. We've just brought on board Ian Matthews, who plays with Kasabian. Very, very big band over here.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's ordered. I wrote it down. It's Mystic Blue Gloss.
Wow, what's that?
Which I'd never seen, and he showed me a picture of it, and it was like, wow! I can't wait to see it. And the picture that the profile picture for this episode, I'm behind Nick Collins' kit.
That is beautiful.
That purple, that was a one-off. Nick asked us to match a color, and when I saw that color, purple marine, what's it called? Purple marine pearl. yeah, I've had so many people comment on that saying we've got to introduce it. So
tried to find it on the site just
not there.
after we started, and I'm like, hey.
Yeah, we did that. Nick, Nick, when he was this year, he started touring with Mike and the Mechanics.
Yeah.
And the kit he had on Genesis was different sizes, concert toms, of course. So no, he wanted something completely different for Mike and the Mechanics, and he gave us a Pantone reference and said, can we get this? So hats off to Nick. He really hit a good one there.
He is such a nice young man. He was a guest on this show, and I had the best chat with him, and I'll email him every, I don't know, 6 months or so just to say hello. And it's
Nick's great, brilliant player, fantastic to work with, and I'm seeing him next month because he's coming over for Ash's Christmas Bash.
Oh, that's right. Oh man, see, now I'm jealous. Man, we have so much over here, but you seem to have the cool stuff going on right now. Oh, I'd love to see. So what happens at Ash's Christmas Bash?
Yeah, this is the third year, and he's sort of so far he's had the sort of same artists, and then he's sort of mixed up the fourth slot. So it's been Alex Torgerson, who plays with Niall Horan, Ash himself, Carl Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the previous 2 years, actually, I was there talking about my books. So I kind of did like a sort of slideshow on photos and things. Not doing it this year, but Phil Gold did the last 2 years, and this year that slot actually sort of mixing it up, and Nick's coming over. He's going to be playing it. So it's a great hang. It's a just before Christmas. It's a wonderful venue he's got over in Norwich, and it's just a world-class event. Good drum hang. I mean, it's great lighting and PR. I mean, it's just a really brilliant idea. It's for charity as well. He supports a wonderful charity over that way. So it's really great to be supporting that too.
Wow, that is amazing. I would love to make the trip over there just for that and
it's a cool
Ash and see everybody. It really would be such a fun time. I do want to say hello to some guests that we have watching, some viewers. We have our friend Anthony McKelly, who you met. He's a great Canadian drummer, and he, I believe, is making some time in between flights, or I think in between flights. And Roxanne Hammond, she is a drum student of mine, a friend. Do you know who Derek Zimmerman is? I don't know him.
Yeah, he's a brand manager for Latin Percussion.
Oh, fantastic! Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Derek. Nice to see you for tuning in. And the inimitable Mr. Rob Andrews here, a longtime friend, and Gretsch, absolute Gretsch nut, has, I think, 3 Gretsch kits at this point, one being a concert tom kit and one my old Rosewood kit, and an absolutely incredible local drummer here. And I wanted to talk to you about your books. So again, this is something else that you do. So
yes.
Let's hear about these books, please, Dave.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in photography. And I know this is going to sound completely crazy, but when I started working for DW, I'm 5,000 miles away. Like I said, Scott Donnell was just fantastic to work with, and he very much left me alone, to just do my thing. And there was never any pressure, from DW or Scott to say what I was doing. But I started taking photos almost like, actually, I'm not sitting at home watching daytime TV. I am actually going out to concerts, and and of course it turned into I'm creating content. Mm-hmm. So, and especially with the advent of social media and everything else, actually me going out and taking photos is great for the brands. And let's face it, how many people actually go and take photos of drummers? Like hardly anybody.
You're right. Me.
It's always the singers, the guitarists, and So, I started taking photos, for DW, and they use my photos in adverts. We had, oh God, I can't remember what it's called. DW had a magazine they produced every year. Oh, the Edge magazine.
Okay. All right. Wow.
So my photos will be used in that, on packaging, all sorts of things. So, I was creating content, and I'm self-taught. And the great thing about digital photography, you can sort of take 1,000 photos, and you learn by just taking more and more photos. Throw away the ones you don't want or not very good, and you just kind of get better and better. So I started building up a real portfolio, thousands of photos. And of course, the DW roster, so many great drummers. I photographed Mitch Mitchell and, Nigel Olsson and Chad Smith. And, I could go on and on with these great names. And I just thought to myself, why don't I just do a book of my photos? And I sort of almost did it for myself. And what happened was sort of completely surprised me. I'm going to wind my clock back a little bit, because the key moment was I photographed Scott Travis with Judas Priest. And I showed Scott my photos the next day, and he sort of came back to me, goes, "Man, these are some of the best photos I've ever seen of me." And I was like, oh, actually, maybe I can take a photo. Here's a guy that's been photographed by the most famous photographers on the planet. And it kind of made me feel that maybe I wasn't just totally amateur at taking photos.
Right.
And so I made up this dummy book, and I took it along to it was then called the London Drum Show. And I showed a few people, trusted people. And I was not prepared for the reaction. I had people try to rip it out of my hands. Nobody had really done a book on drummers. Not
Wow.
one. So and I had people saying, "Where can I buy it? How much is it going to be?" And I thought, oh, actually, maybe I'm onto something here. So I approached a few book publishers. Nobody's interested.
Wow.
I don't know whether it's drummers or, I wasn't a name or something. So my wife said to me, well, why don't you do it yourself? And I started looking into it, and I took a great leap of faith. I put almost $20,000 of my own money. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, because when you do something, I use the best paper. I did it really big size. I just didn't compromise whatsoever, and I just published it off my own back, really not knowing if I'd sell 1 or 1,000. And the reaction I got was just fantastic, just brilliant. And it was never meant to be a money-making exercise. If I could break even, that was happy days.
Sure.
And I just got so much warm feedback, all over the world. People getting my book. And just enjoying the fact that I'm sort of shining the spotlight on drummers. I feel like I was doing something back for the drumming community. Mm-hmm. So first book went really well, actually, and so I thought, that was in 2010, and then in 2016 I launched my second book, and I've got a copy there.
Oh, they are so beautiful, man.
So,
just even the cover.
Well, here's the thing, I mean, Neil Peart is an absolute hero of mine, and of course with DW, I got to work with Neil, and I got to meet him, and get to know him.
Come on.
And I asked Neil to write the foreword for my book, and when he came back and what he wrote about my photography, made me cry. Actually, it brought tears to my eyes. He was just so generous about my photography. He invited me to shows to come and photograph him, and I mean, what a huge honor, absolute honor.
Wow.
And, I mean, the thing about it is, my job gets me access where, you know, people fear to go, sort of thing. And what I've tried to do is to share with people what it's like to look out in front of 100,000 people. You know, what it's like in the dressing room or in a studio or a rehearsal. It's the behind the scenes thing that, you know, people actually don't get to see. So I'd like to think I'm sort of sharing that. And of course, alongside of this, you know, I'm still, you know, taking photos for DW and Gretsch. I mean, if you look on the, you know, our socials, a lot of those photos are mine, you know, because I'm going out, and the drummers love it. They absolutely love it because I'm coming out. Yeah, I'm coming out. I'm taking photos, and I think because, you know, I'm a drummer myself, you know, I take it from the drummer's perspective. So, you know, I know you when you're going to hit a cymbal before you're going to hit it, because, you know, I feel it in the music. So I'm there ready to capture it. The difficult bit is photographing drummers, because singers, guitarists, piece of cake. They're at the front of the stage. They're in the spotlight. Yeah. Drummers, you know, they're very rarely there's very rarely, you know, in the spotlight. You know, there's cymbals in the way. You know, there's a bass standing in front of them. You know, there's a whole. You know, you're moving, so you know, if you know, rather than get a blurred picture, get something nice and sharp. It's taken me years to kind of master sort of photographing drummers. And in fact, the new thing I'm doing, actually, this is since COVID, that I've been pretty much concentrating on going to sound checks.
Wow, cool. Yeah, great idea.
And what I do is I get the lighting guys to light up the kit. So I've got really nice lighting. Something you rarely get in the show.
Smart.
And if you look on, I mean, literally, if you look on the Gretsch socials right now, the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's like 4 or 5 photos of mine, and you'll see how clear they are, because they're taken at sound check, and I've got the guys to light it properly, and I've got stage access, you know, and the time to sort of take some nice photos.
That's amazing. What a great idea.
Yeah. So I'd like to think I've given a lot of people, you know, some you know, really warm, you know, some great pictures to look at. And slightly sad is I've got enough content to do a 3rd book, and I've taken it to the next level. I mean, really taken it to the next level. And I went to get some quotes recently, and because of COVID, the cost of paper has doubled.
Right.
I mean, my books, I realise, you know, they're not cheap. In the UK, they're about £30, probably $40-45 in America. You know, if I double the price of that, you know, it's going to be really expensive. I just think I don't think many people are going to buy, you know, $60-70 book. So I've kind of had to put that on ice. And, you know, for book 3, I photographed, you know, my real heroes: Charlie Watts, Phil Collins, Vinnie Colaiuta, Steve Gadd. You know, some of my absolute heroes. But watch this space. You never know. Prices might come back down, and I might be able to do it.
Maybe. Now, can we get is this the correct web address there?
It is. Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
And would you be able to autograph them if people ordered them? Are you able to sign them for people? Or no?
It depends where they are, because I've got books in the States, and DW send them out for me. So obviously, for me to sign it, they'd have to send it back here and send it back out.
Get Andrew DeShreve to sign it.
Yes.
Hey, brother.
If it's over in Europe, I could probably do it. Or I could sign them and send them to the States, but I would have to charge extra for the postage to do that. But
it's an absolutely beautiful pair of books. Holy cow!
Yeah, thank you very much, Neil. Thank you. It's great, and I love doing it, and I love the fact that, you know, I can, you know, for Gretsch and DW and LP, that I can sort of, you know, give the brands my photos to as well. So everybody's happy, and the drummers love it. So
I know a lot of times the photos I see of me are not good. There's the occasional photographer that really gets it. When we were in the Philippines in September, there was one photographer, and every picture, there was probably 100 of the whole group. everyone was really good. There was
Yeah.
not one where I looked like I was in pain, which often, you know, I'm a face maker when
Right.
I play, but they were wonderful. But a lot of times I see it's like, holy cow, no, delete, no, no, please, no. But you
Yeah.
definitely have an eye and a talent for that. As Anthony McKelly said, you've got a great eye for it. And Jules Thomas, you're the
Hey,
real rock star.
hi,
Dave,
Jules.
hi, Jules, how are you? I saw you mentioned briefly in New York at the cutting room there. And nice, thanks for tuning in, Davis. Fabulous. And it's true, though. I did see when you and I became social media friends, I'm seeing photos. Oh, Dave Phillips. He took this photo too, Dave Phillips. And it was just, you feel like everywhere.
Well, it's, you know, I love photography too. So it's part hobby, you know, part work, you know, part of my books. It's all of those things. And
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I've got probably 100,000 photos on my computer. And a lot of magazines actually use my photos, you know, so Modern Drummer have used several of my photos on the
That's
cover.
right. That's right. Oh man, I had so many Modern Drummers, as we all did. And
Yes.
yes, now I only have two stacks about this much that are some of the ones that I really, really love. We're going to wrap up shortly, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to ask you. Two things.
Yeah.
What can you give us a hint as to what might be coming down the pike in Gretsch land? What is there anything new that's going to be happening? I mean, we're this huge year, 140th anniversary for Gretsch,
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can tell us about what is coming or what's happening for next year or the next couple of years?
No, actually, you're asking the wrong person. You're going to ask Andrew Shreve that. So,
Okay. Oh. Hey, brother.
yeah.
All right.
But there's definitely new things coming.
Okay.
In fact, I'm waiting for Andrew to give me a full lowdown. So, yeah, maybe Andrew can share that with you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if there's anyone watching now that does not have experience with Gretsch drums, what kids would you recommend for? And here's some scenarios. First of all, a weekend adult beginner drummer plays an occasional gig playing rock, classic rock and pop. What drum kit would you recommend for that?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you a very, very quick story. So I was approached by a drummer from a band, The Divine Comedy. This was not last year, the year before. Professional band, you know, very famous, and they played a 45-day tour across Europe. And he contacted me saying, I'd like to use a Catalina club.
Okay.
So this is a professional band. They did 2 nights in London, the London Palladium, which is one of the most prestigious venues in London, like 2,500 cap. And so there's a professional band playing on a Catalina club, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And there's a series of videos that Tim did on our social media on that. So for that weekend warrior, you know, beginner, you know, the Catalina club or the Catalina maple is perfect. You may want to change the heads, you know, to something that you prefer, but even our Gretsch entry kits, you know, there's proof that they can actually, you know, be used in a professional setting. Sure. And you know, they're a great price, so I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them.
And it's nice that Gretsch does have, you know, the Catalina series, the Renowned series, and then the high-end American made. What about a semi-pro drummer playing regular gigs, maybe several different genres of music?
Yeah, I mean, the Renowned would be the go-to kit. And I have a lot of bands, actually, pro bands, endorsers. So when you tour in America, if you start on the East Coast and then on the West, and it's a 6-week tour, even under an endorsement, that's going to cost a lot of money. You know, the backline companies will only give you an endorsement kit maybe for a week, and then you're on a rental, and then you've got to ship it back across. So I get a lot of guys, actually, that buy a Renown kit for the tour. And at the end of it, they'll either put it in storage for next time or sell it. And that's probably actually going to be cheaper than hiring a kit, you know, for 5 weeks and then shipping it back across the States. So Yeah, so I mean, the Renowns are, you know, semi-professional, but I think, you know, professional standard too. So really great kit, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it, you know, for a working drummer.
I've had a few Renowns, and they were absolutely wonderful.
Have you seen the, sorry,
Go ahead.
if you look at the 140th Renown that came out,
yeah.
oh my god, it just looks so good. It's mahogany with a white marine pearl stripe, 22x14 kick.
Yeah.
The guys smashed it out of the park with that. It really looks great.
They are beautiful. And Neil Daniels playing that on the video demo.
Yes.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Neil's fabulous player, man, and one of the busiest guys I've seen. It's like, I'm going to finish this tour, and then 2 days from now, I'm going out with someone else for. It's crazy.
I think Neil has got a new kit with the same finish as Nick Collins.
Yes, that's right. I did see that on his socials. Yeah, that's crazy. And the last question: the touring pro looking for something durable, consistent, and that looks great and sounds amazing. Yeah,
really a choice of three there. You've got the USA Custom, Broadcaster, or Brooklyn, and they've all got their own sort of flavors. What I would say is, if you can, try them out. You know, the Broadcaster's obviously got a very warm vintage sound. It's a 3-ply shell. The Brooklyn, you know, and the USA Custom, thicker shells. USA's got the die-cast hoops on it, which really kind of focuses the sound. They're both great kits, and it's going to come down to personal preference. But, you know, amazing recording kits. Live, the front of house guys are going to love you.
Yeah.
The best quote I've ever heard on Gretsch. This was one of our artists, Andy Treacy, who plays with Faithless. I lent him a kit for a huge festival he did. It was Isle of Wight Festival. And he came back and he said, the front of house guy said it made the whole band sound better.
Wow.
I mean, for me, I can't think of a better compliment than that. And that was on a Broadcaster.
Wow. I remember when I took the Broadcaster kit out for our first ABBA show, Bjorn, the band leader, and he said, that is the best drum kit I've ever heard you play. He said they're just head and shoulders above anything else.
Right.
And he's a guitar player, and I'm surprised he would notice, but it was lovely to say that. I think I had the bell brass at that point.
I go out to see a lot of bands, and the one thing I do notice is other musicians commenting on the sound of the drums. Yeah, it really does happen. Yeah.
That great Gretsch sound, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Wow. Dave, thank you so much for spending the hour with us here. It was wonderful to virtually meet you, and it's been a pleasure the last couple of years getting to see you on socials and interacting, and both Andrew Shreve and Jules chimed in here, and here's what Andrew was saying: the drum community is very lucky to have a scholar like you, Dave. Yeah. Andrew, thank you so much for everything you do, and Dave, thank you for your time. Appreciate it, and looking forward
my pleasure. It's a shame I could talk for another hour. But,
I know.
Yeah, really appreciate you inviting me on the show, Neil. Thank you very much.
So much.
Nice to meet you.
All the best to you, and please say hello to Ash and have fun at the bash. And we will talk soon. And thanks everyone for tuning in and for your comments. And we will see you next time on episode 79 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. Take care, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you very much.